In this podcast, we're going to talk about covalent bonding. Specifically, we're going to talk about naming covalent bonds and formulas for covalent bonds. All right, first let's just talk a little bit about what a covalent bond is. Covalent bond is when you have sharing of electrons between atoms, and it involves two or more nonmetals. Okay, so down here, we have a little picture that shows us that here we have, oops, jump back up there. All right, here we have two oxygen atoms, and you see that they're sharing these four, or the two pairs between them. Okay, here you have a different set of atoms that are sharing one pair between them. Okay, so they're sharing electrons. All right, how do we name a covalent compound? All right, well, first we want to use prefixes. They are over here to indicate the number of the first element, and then we're going to write the name of the first element. Then we're going to use prefixes to indicate the number of the second element, and then we're going to write the name of the second element and change the ending on it to IDE. Okay? All right, now there's one caveat to these rules. Mono, right here, it can only be used on the second element. You never use mono on the first element. So that's definitely something you want to write down to remember later. All right? And then let me scroll down so you can get deca there. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to write the name of the first one, use prefixes to indicate the number, write the name of the second one, change the ending to IDE, use prefixes to indicate, and we can never use mono on the first element. All right, so here's some examples. We have P3Cl5. 3 is the prefix tri. P is phosphorus, so we're just going to write phosphorus here. Ooh, my writing's getting interesting. I left my smart slate at school, so I am using just the mouse on the computer, so that's why it looks so interesting. Triphosphorus, and then 5 is penta. So we're going to put penta, and then Cl is chlorine, and we're going to change the ending to ide. So it's going to be pentachloride. All right, there we go. So triphosphorus pentachloride. All right, here's another example. We have xenon. There's only one, but remember we never use mono on the first element, so we're just going to write xenon. Oh, this writing is good stuff. All right, and then 9 is nana. And then F is fluorine. So we're going to write fluoride, so nana fluoride. Okay, so xenon nanofluoride. All right, and the last one, carbon. We only have one, but we never use mono on the first element, so it's just going to be carbon. All right, and then oxygen, and we only have one, so now we can use the mono. So mon, and then we're going to change the oxygen to oxide, so monoxide, so carbon monoxide. Something you should be pretty familiar with, at least heard of. Okay, and that's all there is to naming. All right, now, how do you determine the formula of a covalent compound? Well, you just simply go backwards. So you're going to take the names and the prefixes are going to tell you how many you have of each of the atoms in that molecule. Okay, so let's look at a couple examples. So what's the formula for carbon dioxide? All right, well, carbon, there's not a prefix, so that tells us there's just one of them. And then oxide is oxygen, and it has the prefix di in front of it, which tells us it's 2. So CO2 should be another one you are pretty comfortable with. All right, what's the formula for dihydrogen monoxide? All right, so we got hydrogen and di, which tells us that there are 2, and then mon, which means 1 oxide, so 1 oxygen, so H2O. So there's the name for water. All right, and the last one we have pent. Pent is 5, And we have nitrogen, so that's N5. And then we have octahydride. Hydride is H. And then octa tells us that it is 8. Okay, so N5H8. And that's all there is to covalent naming and covalent formulas.